Hey, I'm Josh from Idle Heirs.
And this is Sean Ingram, and you are listening to Vulgar Display of Podcast.
Hi, and welcome to the Vulgar Display of Podcast, live from the barn. You got the Mox here, and I'm joined online with a couple special guests today. Just some Midwestern guys hanging out, no big deal. Nice
No big deal.
afternoon. We have Josh and Sean of Idle Heirs. Guys, how are we today?
Awesome. Thanks for having us, man. This is very cool. Very cool.
Yes, thank you so much, man.
April 11th, Life is Violence LP. I want to shout out your publicist, Stephanie. She sent us an advance copy of the record. My other two co-hosts have normal jobs during the day, so they couldn't be here, but we all three listened to it. It gets the vote of approval on our end. Absolutely love the sound. Me and Josh were talking off air. My favorite track I think is the opening track, Loose Tooth. It's slow to
Oh,
that sort of that slow build into sort of chaoticness and really some intense emotions that are coming through in the music and in the lyrics and the vocals and all that and the presentation of it. And I know that's a long soliloquy to say, really excited about this record.
Thank you.
but hey, yeah, that's very kind of you. Yeah, we're ecstatic too. I mean, it's very. This is like birthing a child, right? Yeah, it's a lot.
How did this project even start in the initial phases of it?
Ooh. Well, I mean, Sean and I had been talking about doing a project for a while. I had done he was doing features on a couple albums, and there was a local band here that initially kind of started us talking. And then we did the Norma Jean feature on Polar Similar. And I don't know what which came first, but we both were like, man, we need to do a project together, and just kind of kept firing stuff back and forth to each other.
Yeah, I was there working on I do bit parts, or at least I used to get asked to do bit parts 15 years ago. And Josh was my go-to for that. And yeah, he had shared stuff, and and I was just always excited about it, because like for me it's like I love to do all sorts of different things, and I like to write us all sorts of different things, and so the idea of being able to like live in a song for like, maybe more than 3 minutes, and like really get into it and really kind of explore that riff, and which is, essentially what post metal is to me, is it's just the freedom to be heavy and all these other different, emotions, but also, have the freedom to, you don't have a time limit on it, right? Because, Josh, how long is our second single? 7 minutes? That's asking
Yeah.
a lot. That's asking a lot of people, but that's just that's the beauty of it. But yeah, I mean, that's when Josh writes for him, that's what that sounds like. And that was something I definitely wanted to be a part of. But it took many, many, many years. Josh, how long was it between Norma Jean and when we started getting serious? It was easily over 5 years, or
It
more.
had to be 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, so it's just one of those things. The cool thing about music and creativity is like, if you're receptive to it, there are seeds being planted all the time. You know what I mean? And then you get an idea, and you're like, oh yeah, this is the person, or this is the place, or this is the thing that we need to do. And it was just one of those situations. And I'll finish the story for you, Josh. Um, you know, we kind of got a little more serious about it, and and I was kind of hemming and hawing if I wanted to do music again, because it's been since '09 since I've done anything live. And and this story is very similar to a lot of people's story, is like after the pandemic, right? This isn't a pandemic project by any means in any way, but what I mean to say is that everybody came out of the pandemic different, right? Better or worse, never the same. Like nobody came out the same. And so I probably came out a little worse for the wear, and and sold my business and had all these major, major life changes, and it was just really kind of in the shit, really. And so my wife was very helpful and kind of helping me navigate through, that kind of like, you know, I guess really the only way to describe it is kind of like that, kind of like a dark space, right? And so she finally said, she says, you need to do music, and this is something that's been difficult for me my whole life. Because we had children very early. So like going and doing bands and having children, really took its toll on our marriage and finances and et cetera. Cause it's not like, my band made money, so it's like, so it wasn't something I really considered, and so really she was just, really, upfront with me. And she was just like, hey, look, you need to go do music. Like, I don't care what it is, like what you do or how you do it, but that's the only time I've seen you happy. You need to do it and you need to get out of here and go. And so that's kind of like when, I got kind of serious with Josh, and he, we were kind of talking about it. And I think, uh, you know, I don't think I was being a jerk about it, but I think I said, "Hey, we need to do this, or I don't want to hear about it anymore. Like do it, or like let's not do it." Because to me, this is a lifeline. It wasn't like really the idea was not to do a band and go on tour and be on awesome podcasts and work with the amazing Stephanie and Drew and all these amazing people. I really, that really wasn't the idea. The idea was that this would be something, to work through our shit and be creative and really like being creative was like the most important thing in it. And so, that's really kind of how this started. And then, Josh, if you want to finish telling them like, how you went to the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, so like Sean said, I don't think he was. Yeah, you weren't being a jerk, but you were very stern and said, like, hey, we're gonna do this or we're
You're
not.
in trouble. You're in trouble.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I was tepidly like giving demos, and I wasn't. I don't think I was like really doing my part. Like I was just kind of like feeling around. And so when he made that challenge, it made me realize like what I was doing, which was not getting like fully into it. So I do really well in isolation, so I bought a ticket to Portland, Oregon, drove out to Oceanside, Oregon, got an Airbnb, and I posted up for about, I think it was like 8 or 10 days, and like right at Halloween into like November, and it's like super stormy and gray and misty and foggy, and it's amazing up there. And I had to kind of come to terms with what I wanted to do, and then it was kind of this like terrifying, well, what if I want to do, my friend doesn't want to do with me kind of scenario. So I was really apprehensive about sending the first demo, which was very left of center of what I typically do. And I sent it. It's the last track on the album is the first song I sent Sean, Mama. It was called Fawn at that point. And I sent it to him, and, we eventually hooked up, and he was like, I love this. And I was like, okay, cool. Cause I've written 3 more. And I wrote the whole, basically the majority of that album out in Oregon. And that was kind of start of it.
When you press the send button, is there a little bit of anxiousness that builds inside of you? Because like sharing something that you have created and maybe you're emotionally attached to, that can be difficult. It can be a vulnerable feeling, but it's also a very intimate thing. Like if I send somebody a song that really is meaningful to me, I'm really sharing a piece of me more than anything.
Yeah. I mean, so it's funny, that exact situation. So like for me, I'm not a lyricist like Sean. And when I do lyrics, it's when I'm working with another artist as a producer. So I have a lot of material to work with emotionally from that artist. For me, I have to emotionally communicate through sound, and I have to like draw you in. I almost look at the way I write more like composing or like a score. Like how do I make you feel what I'm feeling and get you to that apex? So funny thing is I had to buy a new phone before I left for Portland. My battery died, or I don't know what it was, but the settings didn't go over to my phone. So when I sent him, because I just send Dropbox links, when I sent it to him, I didn't have like my Wi-Fi because there was like no service where I was at. It was me and like a hill and the ocean. There was no way I was getting a cell phone signal unless I drove all the way into town. And I sent him something. I didn't hear from him at first. Dude, I fucking panicked.
Yeah, that's the worst, right?
I was like, dude, he hates this.
I love
But
hearing these stories about how much people care what I think about things. Because that, from my perspective, it's like, no one cares. No one cares. No one cares. So I always appreciate hearing these stories. But yeah, no,
I,
I loved it. I got it, and I was just like, sweet, it's not pop up, right? It's like this is what I like. I want to do something like that I can dig into. So, and I was in a very foul mood, and like it was the perfect background to be challenging because it was hard. You know what I mean? It's like this. It's not like it wasn't anything like any band that I had sang for or sang, or did a guest spot for or anything. It was something that asked for more of me in different ways, and so yeah, so I was ready to dig in, and we dug in like immediately, even though the writing process took long, but a lot of that had to do with the fact that we didn't have we weren't on a time frame, you know what I mean? It's like we're just writing for the enjoyment of writing. So it was something that, we could just sit back and just chew on for a while. And and even then, we're recording, I'm sure there's many memes that would out there on the internet that would, describe me of, after we've recorded and I had a new idea, after the thing's been printed and going from there, so, but that to me, that was like one of the great luxuries of this, is that it wasn't like, hurry up, you're done, it was just, there's no rules at all.
we were making a record for us, so there was no, okay, we have to get it. Like, there was no delivery, there was no expectation. So like, yeah, I mean, Sean definitely had moments where he would improve what he was doing, or he could dial in a little bit closer to how he was feeling. And yeah, there were like 2 weeks there that were frustrating at the end, but we got through it.
Mhm.
But I'd rather be happy because like we had no idea we'd be sitting here with you on this podcast. Like it was going to go on Bandcamp, and I would hate to put something up where Sean's like, God, I wish I would have done this differently.
Well, it's only like that for the first 2 years, and then it becomes part of the charm of the song. And then if you hear it any other way, so but I would, in the moment, it hasn't been 2 years yet. So I'm glad I don't have any, I don't feel like there was any missed opportunities, you know what I mean? As far as like when we're writing. So, and that's a good feeling to have, after creating something, I think.
Writing with that mindset of this is just for us. Do you feel that kind of led to some freedom as far as like creatively, as far as like what you were wanting to build as far as songs and maybe stepping outside of some comfort zones? Do you think it allowed some of that freedom?
Yeah, I mean, the first 3 minutes of the album is just a guitar and me singing. I'm sure that's probably not what anyone who knows me and knows my work was expecting, and but that's what the album called for, and it's on Loose Tooth, I just love how it's just quiet, and it's just like, hey, it's almost, when it comes to the heavy part, you know what I mean? It's like, for me, like how I was writing it, it's like it really felt like that uncomfortableness for me personally in the beginning, because I'm sure you can imagine that is very uncomfortable for me. You know what I mean? I don't know if I thought I was releasing a record, that's how I would have gone. You know what I mean? But then what I like about that particular song, how it turned out, is that when it cuts into the heavy part, I'm fucking home. Like I'm comfortable. So it goes from the most uncomfortable, like vulnerable state, and it was really hard to do live for me too, because I was just like, holy shit, you know what I mean? It's like I'm exposed, you know what I mean? And that was interesting to learn when we played in New York and Philadelphia. But like it's once I can get, it's like a roller coaster, right? It's like once you can get through the butterflies and all that hard stuff, it's like when I'm home, I'm home. You know what I mean? I just love to grind into that riff. I just love to dig into it, and like just live, it's just so cathartic, in a way that doing like a very fast song can't be. You know what I mean? Because it's like it's just going on forever. I'm just holding out these immensely long screams, and and I'm dovetailing him into other screams, and it's like all this breathing that if you know anything about screaming, and you would kind of see like how I'm like trying to get it prepared for it because I've got this other big thing. So it's like there's all this thinking and stuff going on. But yeah, that is from my part, that was kind of like that was the main thing on the menu with this record. You know what I mean? And there is a part in the middle of Dim Shepherd, where we had there was a bridge, and like man, me and Josh, we just went round and round, with different ideas and stuff. And I thought I was going to do a scream, I thought I was going to do a scream sing, I thought I was going to do all this stuff, and then it's just one of those things where you just have to throw in the towel and be like, hey, this song wants this, and this is what it's going to get, and so that was kind of interesting too, you know what I mean? Because like I think that me and Josh have been to many, 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 many rodeos. So, it's like we like to think that we know how to steer the bull. But like I feel like in this instance, there were a lot of moments that were like, no, 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 you don't get to do this. It's not going to work. The magic isn't there. But if, you go this other way, then it will. And so to me, it's like, it's a real learning experience for this record, because this is like what, 13th thing I've recorded or more. It's just really is true when someone tells you that like creativity will in a record will write itself if you let it. It's just that it's very hard to do, because like I said, we think we know better, but like I just feel like that is such a true statement. And that's what I experienced on this. And so like I would just say that like there's just so much stuff that I didn't expect that I could ever pull off in a million years, or even try, or even had the balls to try, you know what I mean? And that all came on this record. So like, you said something earlier, like when you share something and, and it hurts. It's like, I say this often about this record. It's like, this is one of the few records, that I've been a part of that, like, if you don't like this record, you don't like me. Like it's like that you can't disconnect the two. And so like, that's also a scary place, with the internet and, and making sport of making fun of people, etc. So like that's like it's like it's like I said, it's exposed a bit, but also it's kind of exciting because it's like I think that at the same time it's like it's interesting to hear responses to the record, of people that I know and love, and they're like, hey, this is your magnum opus, like this is it, you'll never write lyrics better than Dead Ringer, don't even try, you know what I mean? I'm like, this thing's not even out yet, that's a bold statement, you know what I mean? It's like I got a lot of gas in the tank, come on. But like it's just interesting to see that, and I don't think that I maybe would get that kind of response from folks if it, you know what I mean, if they didn't kind of tell, if they didn't know like what I had put into it, and so yeah. So anyways, I don't know. I feel like I feel real pretentious right now, but like I just it was just a very special moment. And I just think it's very true that I think it's very difficult for Josh and I to separate ourselves from this record. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, you're not into it? That's cool. It's like, it really is like, oh, you don't like me. You know what I mean? It's like, that's how it's perceived. It's very personal.
Shouldn't art be that way though?
I mean, if you got thick skin, but
yeah, I'm not saying it's
it's not easy.
Yeah, it's not easy.
Yeah, it needs to hurt a little,
Yeah, I agree with that. If it doesn't hurt, I don't want to be a part of it. You know what I mean? It's like it's got to hurt a little. And art has to hurt. And I think that's why and you're right. I think that's what makes the greatest artist. You know what I mean?
You talk about it being emotionally driven, and I think you mentioned Josh talk about doing it through instrumentation, and there's a lot of instrumentation on this, and I to me, I love the atmospheric, the sort of dynamic that's over the top of some of this, but this is just such a heavy bass driven record. Yeah. And it always feels like records like that We just talked to Chat Pile. You guys familiar with them?
Oh
Oh
yeah,
Those
yeah.
guys? Okay. So
yeah,
I
they're
think
great.
they do something similar where it's really bass driven. It's almost like they write with the bass in mind.
Oh yeah.
And then it allows for freedom to be over top of it. And that's the sense that I get with this record too. How important is the bass and the nasty ass bass that you guys have? How important was it to this record?
Well, so the writing process for me, I'm a very much sum of its parts kind of writer. And the low end, um, I love bass guitar, and I feel like it gets absolutely beat out of modern production. You know, it's
Yeah.
either clangy or it's like subby, and I would just want it to. When it's gone, I want you to miss it, and when it's there, I want you to love it. And so, a lot of the way I write. It varies. Sometimes a couple of the songs on the record were written completely from the drums forward, and then I'd play the bass guitar to lock in with the rhythm. Sometimes it was the guitar riff was important and the bass, but I also like a bass that kind of moves around in the arrangement and isn't just like I'm going to hit the 4 or 5
Yeah.
notes that you do. We actually, so I did the initial demos and there was a lot of stuff that I wanted in there, but then we had a friend of mine, Brad, who actually plays keys live with us. He came out to Norway and played bass on the record, and he's an amazing musician. And he and I talked, and I was like, listen, all the stuff I put here, I want those there, but anything you feel you can deviate from and add to, go for it. And it was just 4 of us in a room. It was Ben Turkovic on drums, Chris Scotches on guitar, myself, and Brad Trinkle on bass. And dude, everything you hear on that record is live. It is a take, and there's no editing, there's no drum samples, there's no nothing. It's 4 people in a room, and then we'd come in and listen, and it's like, all right, yeah, we can tighten that up. Some songs like Dim Shepherd on the record, that's a one time top to bottom. That was the take. So bass is huge, important, but again, it comes down to the sum of the parts. I think any one thing isn't that special until you put everything on top of it.
Was that difficult for you? I mean, you've produced a lot of well-known pieces of work and worked with a lot of awesome artists. Was it difficult for you being on the other side of things? I know this isn't the first go around, but on this project specifically.
No, man, I was excited because I'm always the bridesmaid, never the bride. Like I go to all these cool studios and I get to watch people play their music. And a lot of bands, they want to do it in sections. Okay, we're going to lay all the drums, quantize the drums. Okay, now with the guitars, we're going to make sure the guitars are perfect. And then the bass. I've always wanted to do a truly live record. The closest I've done was Norma Jean, Polar Similar. That was very live. Lots of just letting it be natural. There were a couple edits and stuff like that, but I wanted to kind of be like, you know what? Fuck it. Like, this is an emotional record. It should be an emotional response. So, like, I should come into the room and I should feel a certain way after I hear it. And either that's frustration or anger or sadness or whatever it is. So, yeah, it was hard, but it was hard because there were takes I definitely feel like the guys were like, that was it. And I didn't have an emotional connection to. And so we had to do it again. But it wasn't hard. I could completely separate being a producer. My assistant, Brandon Youngme, who also plays keys live with us, he was engineering and co-producing that. And he was on the other side of the glass. So I completely trusted him. So I just got to sit in there and be a dude with my friends and make music. It was awesome.
You mentioned Norma Jean, and the record release show will be on the record release date, April 11th, at the Warehouse on Broadway in Kansas City, Missouri.
Sir.
A homecoming show of sorts.
Yes, sir.
And I know you guys have played a few shows. How have the crowds responded to this, and what are you expecting for April 11th in Kansas City?
Sean?
Yeah, I am been very I've just been very excited to see how enthusiastic the response has been. This is a band nobody's ever heard of. Didn't exist 4 weeks ago. It just came out of the blue, and You know what I mean? And we immediately went to the festival and stuff. So like we've been really lucky to be in front of like bigger crowds, 150 plus folks, I guess. And and it's just I've played bad shows. I know what being booed's like. I know what people turning around in unison and walking out of a show feels like. I know what all that feels like. So it's not like I would ever be surprised, you know what I mean, if I got a bad show, but like, and it's not that I'm expecting anything negative or anything like that, but I guess what I'm trying to say is that it has been, I feel like it's been overly enthusiastic, and like it's always exciting when someone was like stops you and like grabs your shoulder and looks at you and they're like, no, 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 it was good. Like, like I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. I was really excited to see it. So I think that when you get that from a buddy, you know what I mean? And it's just encouraging, you know what I mean? I have this silly story from our very first show, my, youngest daughter, Hazel, she's in her 20s, and she came with us out there to do merchandise excuse me, in Philadelphia, and she was hanging out with the guys from Relapse. And this was our very first time debuting live, at this festival. I mean, how it was I don't know if it was undeserving, but like it was very cool. It's like to just get to do that, because I'm used to just playing in a basement or, whatnot. But we got invited and to do this. And so she was just flipping out, and she told me the story that Drew and Steve and the team from Relapse, they're like, calm down. It's actually going well. This is really good. Like, this is one of the best debuts we've seen, and so, and when you put it in that context, that it's not just the first time seeing us, it's like the first time us playing, because you can practice as much as you want in rehearsal and getting ready, etc. There's like always unknowns that are, can ruin it or derail it or whatever, and so I mean, the fact that none of that stuff happened and we were able to like feel the performance and not just be like scared on stage and and go through the motions. I mean, we were able to like actually play like a band, like pretty much from inception here, right? And so it was just a relief, but it also was like kind of exciting for the future, right? Because it's just like, okay, cool. There's a million things Josh and I want to change and the guys want to change about the live show and the set, et cetera, and our tech and gear and all of this stuff, so it's like it'll only get like more exciting and easier from here, you know what I mean? Because that was a huge hurdle. But like the ease with which we were able to just get into it was something so brand new and so weird. And my voice could have fucked up so easy, dude. It's like I could have cracked and sounded like an idiot, and there's all this stuff that could go right, that I had nightmares about it. But like we just held it together, and that's a lot of that is due to the rehearsal schedule that Josh put together, and and everybody put a lot of time into this, to be rehearsed. You know what I mean? It's like we took it serious like a heart attack, because we wanted it, we wanted to do the music justice, we didn't want to get up and, be drunk or sloppy or something stupid, it's like we wanted to, we wanted people to hear it. So, and we got the recordings from from the boards and stuff. And I was like, okay, this is pretty good. Like we know what we need to change, but like this, we're good. You know what I mean? This felt good. So, and at the end of the day, every artist knows this, even if it didn't sound the best, it felt good, you know what I mean? And it felt good. So like, that was definitely, a huge relief.
Yeah.
You talk about being a part of some of those early shows and not going so well. I'm a St. Louis guy, so any of those at the old Creepy Crawl in St. Louis, I know you played there a million times.
And ate at Dapper Dan's after every time, dude. I miss that place.
I don't know if you remember, I'm buddies with the guys from Not Waiting But Drowning. They were St. Louis.
Yeah. Of course, dude.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, dude. Love St. Louis. We always had great shows at St. Louis. St. Louis has always been rad. Like St. Louis was always like, why are we not playing here more? It's only 4 hours away. You know what I mean? But for some reason, we would always, go 8 hours north to Chicago, instead of like, coming through. But yeah, no, you're totally right. But yeah, no, I've played shows at straight edge festivals, and I have a long history of not being liked by the straight edge community, and we've had just issues with that. And so yeah, I mean, yes, I've seen a lot with that stuff, as anyone that goes back to 95, as you can imagine, so, but yeah.
I've taken up too much of your time. On the way out, though, let's talk. We have a couple singles out and a couple videos out. And Josh, I want to ask you about Pillow Talk, and I'm gonna quote you here. This is a deeply personal song. I feel like a lot of people can relate to what is portrayed in the video. The lyrics and the visuals of Pillow Talk speak for itself. Whereas like Rare Bird is more of a, I guess, performance-based video. This seems to have a little bit of a narrative, but it also allows for, I think, the viewer to kind of fill in some of the gaps where there's a little bit of, you make up the rest, or what, sort of like the end of Sopranos, I guess, where it's like you kind of figure out what happens from here. I mean, there's an obvious theme there, but I would say it's a little bit more of a, kind of a story, I guess, happening.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that song in that video?
I've struggled with what to say in these scenarios. I'll say this is I stand by my original statement. It's deeply personal to me. And I was very lucky to bring the concept to Sean, and he absolutely crushed it, from a vocal standpoint and lyrically. I've had messages from a couple people about it, and, it was really cool to hear their stories and how that related to them. That song really goes out to anybody that has an abuser or a manipulative person in their life, somebody who just doesn't care about them, doesn't love them, and you need them, So I won't go into it. I don't like to like put my laundry out there too much. Like I said, I think our music is there, and the lyrics will help people with what they see in it. And I guess the most I can say about it is my life's pretty good despite whatever. So I hope Pillow Talk can give somebody perspective on things that have happened and things that can be.
And for the record, I wasn't prying for any kind of,
No. I
personal
appreciate
thing.
I struggle. I haven't done many podcasts on this subject, and maybe one day I warm up and tell the story. But I think the story's in there.
Yeah, and this is one of those rubs, is that we didn't expect to have to talk about it. So we were able to tackle that stuff freely, and so that's like kind of one of the that it's just one of those weird rubs, right? So it's like yeah, you're definitely not prying, because we put art, we put it together, what I mean? We packaged it, we want to talk, what I mean? But because of how it was, how the inception of the band and how we wrote it, and the fact that we never thought we would have to answer for it. No. In those ways. And so that's just like the weird thing, what I mean? So like, so yeah, some of them are tough, what I mean? So that one's tough for Josh. Dead Ringer's tough for me. And when we were doing the video for Dead Ringer, I got the same question I was caught off guard, and I fumbled through it. The producer's wife was like, "What's this song about anyways?" And I'm like, fucking stuff. I don't know. You know what I mean? It's like, because when it's like, I don't want to go into this with you.
Not right now.
So it's like, it's just one of those things. It's like, yeah, it's just, in that regard, we fucked up. But also maybe, I think it will make for something interesting when someone is doing that awesome thing, which is sitting in front of the record with the headphones on and reading the lyrics, just like I used to do with Concrete Blonde and, The Cure and stuff like that. It's like, oh, what did Danzig mean here? Under her black wings, what I mean? It's like, what I mean? It's like, maybe my dream is that somebody's like, we'll read it in that context, and then it will connect with them the way I connect with music. But yeah, it's like we don't know how to answer those questions real well yet. So, so
Well,
sorry.
as you can see, the family's home from school now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Awesome. What's up? Yeah.
Sorry about that. Life is Violence LP out April 11th, and then the CD release show, CD release. Oh wow, that's showing my age there.
we do have CDs, so it's
Oh,
not.
nice.
Yeah. Yeah, we got him.
Loving this record again. Thanks for Stephanie, your publicist, for sending us advance copy. We're so digging it. Thanks for joining us, guys, and thanks for putting out your art and pieces of you.
Hey, thanks for having us, man. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, you rip. This is awesome.
All right, thanks, guys. I'll cut it there. We'll probably release it a little closer to the album release date, maybe the week of or the week before or
Okay.
something.
Cool.
And then any kind of shares or follows or anything like that's really helpful for us. We're small time, but we like to act big time. So,
Hey,
Yeah, yeah. Do a collab post on that
okay.
Yeah.
with us, and then yeah, for sure, yeah, and then and then we can share comments between the two posts if you're into it.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.
dude,
Hey,
of
thanks
course.
so much, man. Yeah, have a terrific day, man.
You too.
And come through on the 11th, man. You're not that far.
No, no. Yeah, I got all these people I got to run that through, but
Yeah, I get it.
if so, I'd love to come out. So I'll reach out to your publicist if we end up that way.
Okay.
Sounds great. Hey, have a great one, man.
Thanks.
Thanks again.